Hello friends! Today I am here to share with you my Romanceopoly update for the second quarter. So these are the books that I read for Romanceopoly in April, May, and June. Just as an update, here is my Sunboard tracker. I had counted this for a different space in, this is a library space. I'd actually already counted this book as a different space. So I just kind of X'd out of it. I think I'm just going to like circle around it in the color of the month that I actually read a book for that library space in. And here is my Moonboard tracker. So for the Sunboard, I have read 20 books. I have 19 spaces left. And for the Moonboard tracker, I have read 22 books and I have 17 spaces left. So I am on track to finish it. I just don't know if it's actually going to happen because of the spaces that are left. So now I'm just going to share with you the spaces that I marked off, the books I read for them, and my ratings and which month I read them in. So for the Sunboard, I completed Sleuth Street by reading Buried in Water by K.A. Tucker. I gave this one 4 stars and I read it in April. For Amore Avenue, I read A Duke by Default by Alyssa Cole. I rated it 5 stars and I read it in June. This is actually the one that I counted for the library space as well because I loved it so much. For the Cobbles, I read How to Love a Duke in 10 Days by Kerrigan Byrne. I gave it 4 stars and I read it in the month of May. Sorry, I'm going to keep looking down and glancing down because that's where my list is. For the spring spot, I read Runaway Road by Devney Perry. I gave this one 3 stars and I read it in April. For a library space, I read Beach Read by Emily Henry. I gave this one 5 stars and I read it in May. For Rainbow Row, I read Once Ghosted, Twice Shy by Alyssa Cole. I gave this one 4 stars and I read it in June. For the summer space, I read Attracting Aubrey by Avery Flynn. I gave this one 3 stars and I read it in June. And finally, for Lady Lane, I read Lost and Found Sisters by Jill Shalvis. I gave this one 4 stars and I read it in May. And on the Moonboard for Sleuth Street, I read Half Truths by Claire Contreras. I gave this one 4 stars and I read it in June. For the post office spot, I read Dear Aaron by Mariana Zapata. I gave this one 3 stars and I read it in May. For the spring space, I read Beautifully Broken Pieces by Catherine Cowles. I gave this one 4 stars and I read it in June. For Lover's Lane, I read Super Fun Sexy Times by Meredith McLaren. I gave this one 3 stars and I read it in June. For the office space, I read Tinsel by Devney Perry. I gave this one 4 stars and I read it in April. And finally, the last space that I completed was Past Eves. I read The Last Train to Key West by Chanel Cleaton. I gave this one 4 stars and I read it in June. So that was my super quick update for Romanceopoly. Like I said, I do have more spaces read than unread. With the ones that are left, I don't know how many of them I'll actually get to. But I am going to keep trying. So that is my quarter 2 Romanceopoly update. How are you doing if you're competing in the challenge? Thank you guys so much for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye.